Today is to be talking about the creative journey, a way of becoming and being an artist. Um, and the first questions would be related to becoming an artist. So let's start with Brent, with you. How did you first discover your passion for painting?
It was a lifelong passion. I was always kind of like art kid growing up, but I'm from small town outside of Seattle. Never thought there was a career in art. And when I went to undergrad, I went with the intention of becoming a dentist because I wanted to be a rich dentist to buy a bunch of cars. That was my horrible motivation at the time. And my pre-health advisor, she really changed my life. She goes, "What do you enjoy doing?" And I told her art. And that's when I got into oil painting, fell in love with it. But yeah, I had very supportive parents. They put me in extra art classes, lots of Legos, video games. They all kind of contributed to, I guess, my creativity.
Right. Shanna?
Yeah, similar to Brent, I would say it was sort of innate. Like I just always was the art kid, always was drawn to it. And then I think also something that is sort of good to call out is that, like as sort of the art kid, like the only AP class I took, which was very different when in my business career to my peers, was art. Like I didn't take AP calculus or AP bio or anything like that. I actually did AP art twice. And a lot of people are like, I didn't know they had an AP art class. I found it. So yeah, definitely it was just always a strong interest.
Then what was there a defining moment when you knew you wanted to be a professional artist? What really was that push? For you, Brent, you start with probably somewhere dental school?
Okay, so one of the big moments was dental school in the U.S. is 4 years, and I started in 2010, and it's still in dental school. Every free moment I had, I was painting. I turned my living room into my studio. I turned my bedroom into my studio. There's not a lot of free time in dental school to paint, but I made sure every free moment I was doing it. And in 2012, halfway through dental school, I got a piece into the Long Beach Museum of Art charity auction. And that piece sold for, at the time, a significant amount of money to me. And that really got the gears turning. And in 2014, I graduated. I went to San Francisco for a year. In 2015, I moved down to LA. And honestly, being here in LA, I'm sure you guys all know it, this is like the creative capital of the world. And it was such a encouraging, thriving environment here. I'd say that's when things really started to open up, and I saw possibilities and really all the support.
Shanna?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I wanted to be a professional artist essentially my entire life up until college. And then I did a hard right pivot into the business world and changed my major from painting to finance. Mainly because I was buying into this myth that you can't do what you love and also make a living. And it truly is a myth. And I think once I spent a lot of years in sort of the business world, and I started to get more exposure also to creative people like Brent and saw that this was truly a myth that I just bought into. I started to...
Starving artist myth.
Yeah, the starving artist myth. I reevaluated, where do I want to spend my time with my life? If I have this passion, do I want to do that? Or do I want to spend, my days in Zoom calls and things that I don't feel that interested in, especially when I saw a lot of peers that were very interested in kind of the business and passionate about it. And I wasn't.
Awesome. Thank you. Then just a quick answers, if you could both. Did you receive any formal training all over the years, or are you self-taught? How do you see yourself?
So my undergrad degree was a Bachelor of Studio Arts, which got me started. But if there's any artists in here, you'll know 99% of the learning I've done is the act of creating. And so I almost like to call myself self-taught, but I do have a a Bachelor of Studio degree in art?
I have a semester of art school. And then I'm like a lifelong learner. And so I've also taken, courses and workshops over the years just in like different aspects of art that interest me, not just painting, but also like sculpture, et cetera.
Okay, let's go to inspiration and creative process. Brent, would you start by telling me what really inspires your work the most? Is it like people, nature?
Oof. How long do we got?
I give you 2 minutes.
The real blessing I've found and this goes with any creative endeavor, is you get to spend a life of constant growth. And because I paint so much, that growth in art also translates. Art's my life and life is my art. So everything I learn when painting fuels my life as well. And that kind of, I guess, like teachings I get are the things that's what really keeps me going. And I know this is something I get to do for the rest of my life. Like it's a huge blessing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Anna?
I think I take inspiration a lot from people and nature primarily. And I also have like some symbolism in my paintings as well. So I'm trying to tell maybe a snippet of a story, maybe not a full story. But yeah, that's where I draw the most inspiration. Sometimes things are just like rattling around in my head for a while, and then I'm like, how do I express this thing that I need out of my head right now?
Yeah, it's inspiration, right? This is something that I love to always ask from both of you when I see your painting. Like, where did you get the idea? So how do you plan a painting or develop a concept of a painting? Like, where does it come out of? I mean, everything can be different. Every painting can be different, but what is the most common typical? Shanna first? Shanna,
I mean, I'll talk about ideation because I think there's so many sources for the actual concept or idea. And I'm not somebody who does like a very detailed study prior to doing a painting, but there might be like an image I find interesting. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to put this into something eventually. Or there might be an idea where I'm like, I want to have symbolism around this concept or this idea. And then sometimes it's weird. Sometimes it's like I'm falling asleep and just like an image pops in my head. Like I'm almost in a dream world. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like I should remember that. 80% of the time I don't remember it, but like it's still like, I think there's always just this flow of creativity if you're open to it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Learning to be a good receiver of creativity is kind of, I think, one of the tricks of art. But how can you tell me the question again?
So do you plan a painting? How do you plan or concept for a painting?
Now it's wildly changed over time from when I was painting stuffed animals to more abstract work. And so I'll speak of it how it is now. And if you ask me a year from now, I'll probably have a different answer to this. But and I'm personally speaking, but I've come to learn the infinite possibilities of creativity. And that there truly is no right or wrong to this. That's the act of creating is the important part. So at this current moment, I try to approach a blank canvas with almost zero intention of what I'm going to do except being present. And this is kind of one of those, I guess, lessons I've learned in art that I really take into life is the power of the present moment. And when you're open to creativity, whatever's coming through at that, when you're really present, is to me the nectar of life. That's the creativity. That's the whatever it is, divine force, godlike force, whatever it may be.
Yeah, exactly. And that takes us now to these paintings that we have from both of you from different stages of your artistic journey. And we can talk about like a little bit of each, like your style that you were using at the time, or what inspired you? If you could say in like a few minutes, a few words. Let's start with Brent, with you. Here is one of your earlier styles, and as you can see, it's a skull. And as it comes, probably, if I understand right, because being a dentist and like knowing quite well the human anatomy. So would you want to tell me, like, this is something from the early?
Yeah, I'll give a quick like rundown of my career. So
More, I'll move to another paintings later. So
I started. It came.
Yeah, I can hold that.
So as a like a young artist, I'll be honest, you don't quite understand why you're painting what you're painting. You almost have to look at it in retrospect of why you were doing this, and you may not realize it 5 or 10 years later. But I started with skulls, and one of the main reasons is dentistry. I've done full head and neck anatomy. I've sawed a head in half. I knew every aspect of a skull with my eyes closed. So one of the reasons I started skulls was, and if you see my skull series, every one of them is very different. And it was a way for me to really actually try a lot of different techniques and styles. And it's where I really started to develop, I guess, kind of my artistic toolkit. That moved into stuffed animal pieces, which really, I would say, is what skyrocketed my career. And there's many reasons. I could talk a long time of why I painted stuffed animals. A lot of it was...
You're talking about?
A lot of it was... This started right when, in 2015, when I left dental school, when I left a career in dentistry and went into painting, kind of about following your childhood dreams and passions. But if I was talking to a painter about these paintings, one of the big reasons is imagine and think of all the different textures and colors and materials within stuffed animals. So as an artist, I knew these were like my greatest artistic teachers, learning how to paint fur, learning how to paint ribbons, the juxtaposition between the things, learning how to paint velvet. So my greatest techniques now have come from the stuffed animal pieces, and now I take those techniques into whether it's my abstract work or my quilt series, and now it's everything keeps, I guess, kind of keeps evolving. And like I said earlier, if you're seeing what I'm painting this year, and a year from now, I'll probably be painting something completely different. Just forever growing.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a little heavier painting behind. You can see something of the most recent work from Brent, which is now mixing with the textures of all these stuffed animals with the abstract. And I've been like doing the research myself of artists' careers, especially the few highly successful ones. A lot of painters go from learning first the ability to paint whatever they want in a hyperrealism, and then from there they use that to simplify actually like just more abstract paintings, which it's totally different world at that point.
Yeah, I definitely take the easiest example is Picasso. You look at his work when he was 15 years old, he could paint like the masters. And I always knew as an artist I wanted to learn the skills so I could break the rules. And that was the path I wanted to take. And to be honest, if I was financially smart, I would paint stuffed animals for the rest of my life. But I knew even when I was, I think 2018 was probably like the pinnacle of those pieces. And I knew everybody on the outside was looking at him saying, oh, Brent has found his thing. Like, this is what Brent's going to be doing the rest of his life. And in my head, I'm already thinking, oh no, I'm at step one right now. I just like, okay, I got the artistic tools I want now. Now, how do I start breaking them? And that's when things to be honest, started getting very exciting. And I'm thinking about it now and all the potential of it. Yeah.
Shanna, your painting career, of course, started already when you were in art academy, University of Philadelphia back in the days. I don't have paintings from that time with me, but we'll start with the new age of when you entered the painting career again. And actually, like, this painting would be the first that was introduced at the art fair.
Yeah, so I would say in terms of evolution, it's very similar to what Brent was saying, like, trying to challenge yourself to do something that's very technically exact. While also the challenge that I was kind of trying to wrap my head around was like that whole developing a concept and having it mean something. I was really trying to spend some time trying to figure out like how do people go about doing that. So I think this piece is one of the first ones where I had both sort of a concept, symbolism, and then there was like a sort of a technical element that I achieved. So I feel good about this. And then in terms of evolution, continuing to practice that. And then I would say also in oil painting, there's a lot of stuff beyond, hey, can I make this represent what I want it to represent? There's also, how do I, create a feeling of like depth or of luminosity, et cetera. And a lot of that's done through painting many layers. And so in terms of the evolution, like this has many, many more layers than this was a single layer. And then I have a lot of ideas for the future that will also have, other elements that I've used in other pieces around like pixels or, taking pieces out that are, instead of it being hyper realistic, taking pieces out and making it flat and then having kind of the duality across like, oh, that's interesting. Like there's a shift in the work and like, what does that mean?
It's in a constant evolving stage, which is the right way of saying it. We unfortunately, these are a lot of them have been sold already with the collectors, and we have prints here to show you guys. But how would you actually compare print to oil painting in the end? Like, because they look really good, the prints nowadays, but no, not comparable.
Not comparable for me. Not comparable. No.
Yeah. Your work is like the texture is especially in person. This guy is like the master of texture.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely make my work to be seen in person. I love originals. I mean, I love prints, but I was always inspired by whether you see a Monet in person. I love impressionism, so I knew it was always, as me as an artist, I love human experiences, so I always wanted to create things that were meant to be seen in person, and it's why I love really textual work. Which just doesn't translate into prints, unfortunately.
Yeah. Still get a piece of a $100,000 painting with that.
That's true.
With that print. So that's where we.
I think, and I just want to say something else about like an in-person work versus a print. Prints are usually like, this size, but scale of a piece has like an element of drama. This is the largest piece I've ever done, and I wanted to create that drama. And you just don't get that same feeling from a print. But if you love a piece, and you buy print, that's great.
Yeah. So that takes us actually to the business side. It's just one question about the business. We're artists, so it's the thing that exists. We have to live with it. So how do you balance artistic integrity with commerciality? Brent.
This has been probably my greatest challenge. It's, the real world is especially here in the Western world, you have to treat some aspect of it like a business, because you got to keep the machine running. I'll be honest, it's still very challenging for me today. What my creativity wants to do is not always the smartest business decision. And like I said, I'm still battling it today. I don't have quite a clear answer of how to deal with that at the moment.
Yeah. Shanna?
For me, I think it's actually like it's difficult to predict commerciality, and that doesn't seem like that should be right. But I've created work where I'm like, oh, this is totally a commercial piece. It's going to sell right away. And then other work where I'm like, this is just a weird thing that I made and nobody's going to like it. And like, I feel like those pieces are actually like they like resonate more with a specific person or a specific group of people. And you can try to predict it, but it's novel and new is commercial, like by design in art, if that makes sense.
No, and I, as far as I've been able to learn and understand how artist mind works, and how the business always being involved, because if you pay the mortgage, you pay the rent, and like the being able to paint the paintings, the canvases, you need that portion always there. But I think, but having a business minded colleagues, advisors, representatives, that is, I've seen like. For
That's
both
the
of
key.
you, that's the key. Is just keep yourself away from it as far as you can, but have someone to manage it. Or
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say I envy Shanna because you have both sides of it, which is like I always say if you can have 50% creative mind, 50% business mind, you will crush it in the art world. You will absolutely crush it.
Yeah, I was going to give actually a business analogy to the previous question, which was like around like a competitive landscape. If you're trying to create something that's highly commercial, that means you're creating something that a lot of other people are creating. So you're in a very busy landscape. If you're creating something that's just like weird and new and strange, and is just like really coming from your heart, you're going to be in a commercial landscape of one.
Mm-hmm. That works in the business the same way with entrepreneurship, You do it your own way and don't believe what the investors tell you that no one's going to make it, and we wouldn't have any of the exciting companies that we use today. So, amazing. So we're getting towards the end of the interview and the questionnaires, but I wanted to ask a couple of personal insights. And if you could collaborate with one artist, living or dead, who would it be?
And go ahead.
Shanna, you want to start? An answer.
It's tough. I don't know. There's so many like awesome artists, living and dead, that like I would actually just love to like sit down and chat with. This isn't going to exactly answer your question, but I think something that was really interesting was in like the late 1800s, there were communities of writers and artists in certain cities, like in Paris, for instance, and they would have like these salon environments where they were discussing topics of the time or talking about creativity. And they all sort of like, that's why when you see these big art movements come through, it's because all these people were sort of inspired by each other. So there's a little bit of a cop-out answer, but like, I would love to just be in a space where that sort of element is happening, whether that's with modern day artists in LA, or if I could like transport back in time to Paris in the late 1800s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, we've kind of talked about this, but I feel as if there's a second renaissance in art coming, and it's definitely happening here in LA as part of it. That kind of the Paris salon style artists hanging out. Like, if there's any artists out there, we throw artist only parties at our studios, which are great. Would love more members.
And maybe a kin on Saturday.
Oh yeah,
We'll see. We got some ideas already flowing here with Oliver. So,
but to answer the question, the one that comes to mind is I love Philip Guston. I fell in love with him. I saw a short video of him I was at the Venice Biennale maybe in 2019 or so. But the way he goes about creating is the way I aspire to.
Amazing. Second to the last question. What's a piece of art that deeply moved you? Is there one piece that you could describe? Or
Can you go first?
Shanna?
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
This is gonna be hard to explain, but I had 2 hours to kill. I was in Balboa Park, and I just happened to walk into the San Diego Museum of Art, and they had like an 1800s Amish quilt show going on. And I was so insanely moved.
That's amazing. What was it about? Like, do you remember describing it?
Uh,
This is true artists here.
yeah, I mean, it's what
Not to push you.
it is what inspired these pieces, but I don't know. I couldn't put it into words. It was just the
handmade nature and
I think it's just like the beauty that's in art, that it's been around forever.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think that's being able to be sensitive to art. That is the key ingredient for being an artist.
Oh yeah.
That's what I've learned from every book that I read.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's so many pieces that are moving in the moment, but I'll say like last year I did a marble carving class in Vermont just because something I wanted to know about, like how does this work, like, and having the knowledge of that process and how difficult it is, it does make marble work much more moving for me because not just the technical component, but there is like literally probably blood, sweat, and tears and like bringing that to life. And especially pieces that were done before power tools. I'm just like in awe of how that could have ever happened.
yeah, and so much marble, beautiful marble from thousands of years ago.
Right.
Oh,
Like, and you can like see like there's I can't remember what sculpture it is, but there's one where like the guy's pinky is like this and there's only a muscle that's like only activated if you like lift your pinky, and like somehow the artist, like I think it was like
Is it? Yeah.
he
David,
like
right?
captured it. Yeah.
I think so.
And it's like that's just wild.
Yeah. I mean, any like cathedral or church in Europe, walking, there's so much beauty in the world. That's
Yeah.
There definitely is. So the last one, if you would be able to give like one single piece of advice for aspiring artists, what would it be?
Whew.
Brent, do you want to start? Or
Yeah. Well, one, read what's the Rick Rubin book, The Act of Creating, or
The Act of Creating.
That's an amazing book. Everybody should read that. If you're not a creative, you'll understand how creatives work if you read that book. But and the advice I'm going to give is something, again, I still struggle with, but it's the real advice is follow your heart. Do what creativity's telling you to do. Do what your heart's telling you to do. The real success of an artist is getting to follow that passion, not be influenced by the outside, which is, again, insanely difficult in today's world, but follow your heart.
Yeah, I think my advice would just be it's kind of similar, but in the same vein, but like, just create, like, even if you don't feel like you're in a particularly creative mood, like the act of being productive creatively, doesn't matter what you're making, will make you more creative.
Oh, yeah.
So just continuing to sort of like practice and do, and it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
Like I got an example, like I'm getting ready for an art fair and I was trying to create like some drawings. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to draw. So I started listening to music. I'm like, oh, I'll just draw the music, and it's just like one of those things. And now that created more ideas. And now, I'm off and rolling, but just sitting down and saying, okay, I'm going to do something is, I don't know, half the battle maybe.
Yeah, there's I think it might have been Stephen King, but he says, somebody asked him, how do you get inspired to find creativity? And he goes, it's easy. It finds me every day at 9 a.m. in the morning when I sit down and start writing. Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you for answering my questions. Hopefully they were inspiring to hear and listen. And now it's your turn for the audience. We'll have some questions. Yeah, thank you. We'll take another set of applause.
Been a great talk so far. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was actually at the Kristen show in the Biennale.
Amazing, right?
Yeah, his work's just unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
And I talk about the salon thing all the time. I mean, I feel like in recent decades, we've been in a very singular society versus a collaborative society. So I would love, the salons to come back. I'm going to ask you a question you've kind of already answered, but maybe it's more specific. And it's going to be very personal to me, but I'm sure it applies to a lot of people. I'm an artist. I was an artist child since, I was small. And I've sort of left a corporate job many times in my life to make it in the art world. And I've never been able to crack it. And I have other artist friends, or specifically one or two, that said to me, if you really want to do it, you need to just do it. And you need to focus on it 100%, because if you don't, you're never going to. And, I'm just a financially responsible guy. Money helps. I'm not at a stage in my life that I want to be a starving artist. So again, you've answered this question so many times already, but knowing what the specific nature of, is there any, and I also find the art world to be very closed in many ways, certainly where you can bring in a decent amount of income. I'm kind of boycotting Frieze this year in a way, because you just see the same shit every year.
Yeah.
And I'm going to the smaller fairs because I just find them to be much more interesting, the smaller galleries. Was there any one thing, or is there any theme you're seeing to help, to break into a world that's very closed, or getting, your first group of collectors? And I'm sure there's no silver bullet. There's no one answer. And again, you've kind of answered this with many of the questions, but is there anything else you can think of that would be helpful?
I mean, I'll say that I am not making my living right now from art alone, because I'm sort of like in an earlier stage than Brent, who's like a kind of successful, very successful artist. But I can tell you my theory. My theory is create as much as possible and put as much out into the world as possible, even if it feels uncomfortable, and do it in a variety of different channels, whether it's an art fair or something like this, or through social media. And eventually, collectors will come and they will find you, and also talking to people in the art world and becoming more connected and networking, for lack of a better word, but really just being involved.
Mm-hmm.
And my theory is if I do all of those things and I do them 100%, then it will come. Everything will eventually click. It might not be this year, it might not be 3 years from now, but whatever. I'd rather spend my time trying.
Than not trying.
Than not trying. Yeah.
Yeah. But one thing that I got many answers to this. Many answers. I don't know if they're all actually answers to it, but one thing I've kind of realized is the power of story. Story is what ultimately sells work. It's it's like I would say Disney's just a picture of a mouse without us. Or wait, what is it? Disney's nothing but a picture of a mouse without a story. And I actually wrote this down in my journal a few days ago, but become a master at sharing your art in person, and telling the story of your art would be a huge help. I think a lot of us artists are probably a little introverted, and I know both Sean and I, we've been through the period of it's uncomfortable to share stories about our art or talk about it. So one thing I'd say, get really good at telling the story of your art and telling your story yourself. There's still massive power in social media, whether we like it or not. Befriending other artists, living, I guess, in kind of an abundance mindset, sharing with other artists, like you kind of said earlier, I know traditionally the art world, it's been kind of like singular, protective, and nobody wants to share their collectors or talk about what they're doing. But it's one of the things I'm trying to change is through these artists only parties is like learn from other artists, figure out what's working for them, what's not working for them. And, there's an infinite number of paths to success. And it's just this unsatisfying answer is it just keep doing it and never stop. There's no silver bullet, like you said.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's a lot of same rules as in business. Learn how to pitch your company in that elevator pitch.
Yeah.
So learn how to pitch your painting so it's immediately creates a story that you can feel connected with.
Yeah.
And again, keep doing, keep trying and networking. So the rules seem to be the same, similar. Thank you for the great question.
Thank you.
There we go. And do we have time for two more questions?
How do you navigate the balance of using social media as a tool for self-promotion, connecting with other creatives, but also it's obviously something that can be quite like a distraction?
Yeah, I think Brent and I both are not like the big like if I didn't have like an art business page, like I'd post very little. I'd probably be off of social media by now. Like I'm just like it's like not my thing. Feels very uncomfortable, but it's necessary in order to reach different audiences. So I just kind of have like my to-do list every week. Okay, I have to do these couple things. It's part of my business, the art business, and I'm just gonna do it. So that's sort of the balance is like I want to share my work, but like how to do that and how to get traction and like understanding how social media works, like not my favorite thing, but necessary evil. To your first question, you can find me at shanna.cox.art.
At Instagram.
On Instagram.
And website is
shannacoxart.com.
Yeah.
You can find me at Brent Estabrook, BrentEstabrook.com, at Brent Estabrook. That's to answer your question about social media. It's such a powerful tool, but it's also, I'm sure, as we all know, quite a addictive tool in a not so positive way. One practical answer I can give you is grow your email list. You own your email list and you control that. And the more you the more you make that email list special, and that's where, and if you can get your fans to start coming to your email list, and that's where you have all your special offers, your debuts of this or that, that would be a very powerful tool. Social media, I think it's a little finicky and it's changed a lot over time. I don't have too much of a opinion or suggestion on social media. I'd say if you can, hire a team to do it for you.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, that there is still the reason why there are like a lot of operatives in this industry that manage artists so they can focus on the creativity. I think the social media and all that, there needs to be your story there. This is my personal business opinion on this, is that make sure that it comes from your heart, the story. But when it comes to managing like daily posts and all that, I think that should be it would be better for artists to have someone to
if you can, definitely.
Yeah, at some point there's always comes the time for that. And you can probably find outsourced, like easier people who can do it and use the AI to make it.
Yeah.
My social media plan is from ChatGPT.
Thank you. Great question. We have two more questions. So one first. So there we go.
Hello.
Hello.
You guys are in a unique moment in time where there are consistent tech disruptions that may or may not affect your inspiration, your art. The classics didn't have to worry about these. Probably even until the mid to late 80s, there wasn't so much tech coming at you. I'm really curious to know how that impacts your work.
Well, I'll say this. There's a lot of symbolism around technology and in some of my work and like culture references.
You want to say something about this, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you can see it here. So this work is a little bit like, hey, we're paying a lot of attention to technology and not kind of this beautiful, bountiful nature landscape around us that is a little bit like a Garden of Eden that we're going to get kicked out of if we don't pay attention to it wisely. But I will say around, AI created art versus handmade art, I'm less concerned about AI art taking away collectors, for instance. And the reason is very similar to what he said before around the power of the story. People purchase art because it resonates with them. They want something that is unique and beautiful that some other human put their soul into and made for a purpose, right? And if you can tell that story succinctly, that is like a large element of what makes art interesting. AI is essentially just being trained on many, many images of many artists. So it's churning out something that might be visually interesting, but there's not real meaning behind it. And the meaning is art.
We call that as a soul.
You can call it a soul if you'd like.
Yeah, human creativity will never go out of fashion.
Or spirit.
Yeah.
To answer your question, there's two ways I can answer this. It's understanding the value of human creativity and embracing that. So I embrace that through oil paintings and sculptures that I touch every aspect of my paintings, like no assistance, no AI help, no nothing. And so as an artist, I truly embrace that, and that in life try to practice not being a part of, not constantly being on tech or social media, which is insanely difficult. But the other aspect to it is there's so much great, interesting new technology coming out that my mindset's in, I'm very interested in scaling my business as an artist. But like I just said, oil paintings, sculptures, like I'm going to be the only one doing my oil paintings and sculptures. But I'm very interested in building a team and collaborating with other creatives that maybe can help me develop like a VR world, right? Like my own VR museum, maybe. So I'm very open-minded to all these kind of really beneficial tools that are coming out, and even AI in some capacity. I guess I haven't thought about it yet, but I'm very open-minded to technology and all the positives of it too. So, but I truly enjoy focusing on the human stuff.
We like to call it spirit.
Spirit.
Yes. Thank you both. Amazing insights from highly successful artists already, in my opinion. Whoever takes that real journey towards it and quits their job for it or their profession that they created a huge amount of like not only student loan but also like a career for it. So I do appreciate your time. Thank you, and I hope that all these insights were helping you, as you are probably interested in the art world yourself. And now you'll be a few more minutes after the event here if you guys want to ask the questions from us. So we'll be here. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Oliver. Thank you, Michael. This has been a great event, and who knows, the revolution, maybe it's happening here. I have enabling this is already the first step. So one more applause for our artist.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.